Hello guys, what's up? Welcome again on my channel. My name is Layla Joan. A magician assistant is shown at the start of the film. His name was Kesha and performs magic with his uncle. The magic was named Through the Wall. Kesha lives in a rented apartment with his friend. His uncle often scolds him when he doesn't perform well. He feels there isn't anything well in his life and spends a boring life. Meanwhile, he meets a beautiful girl named Elisa. Elisa was taking the interview of Kesha's uncle and he feels this girl is lovely. He wants to talk to her but his uncle doesn't let him talk, and Elisa also tries to approach Kesha because she wants to know more about this magic. She wants to write an article on this magic because she was a news reporter. While performing magic with his uncle, Kesha sees Elisa in the audience. She comes to this show to watch this with her boyfriend. Elisa likes her best friend. Kesha discovers this and couldn't perform well in the show. Kesha's uncle invites Elisa during the show to perform the magic. Elisa's friend asks her to let Kesha perform this magic. He was scared of Elisa's performance. Kesha was feeling jealous and he almost cuts Elisa's friend during the performance. Due to it, his uncle terminates him from the job. Kesha wants to be Elisa's friend even knowing that she has a friend. He sees Elisa with her friend in a restaurant. He goes near them and starts talking to them. Kesha chases them and they go to an apartment that has strict security. He couldn't go inside and doesn't know the code of the place. Kesha becomes depressed and starts smoking. Meanwhile, a strange man arrives and lights his cigarette. He says, "If you'll give me $20 as a loan, I can fulfill one of your wishes." Kesha was worried and says, "No matter if anyone asks for money, I will give him, but if he will fulfill my this wish." He gives $20 to the man he demanded. After taking money, the man disappears from there and Kesha becomes worried. He suspects he fled after stealing his money. Then the magic happens, and like the illusionary magic Kesha performs in the show, he moves to the other side of the wall. The next day, Kesha awakes with the phone call of his uncle. Kesha was sleepy when he was awake. He doesn't understand what has happened last night. He doesn't notice the money on the ground. His friend who was reading the newspaper tells Kesha there was a robbery in a bank. The robbery was mysterious, that the thief took the money but didn't break anything. He didn't even break a window or a door. Here, Kesha understands what has happened last night. Firstly, he was thinking it was a dream. He discovers that he has magic since the previous night. He can go to the other side of the wall safely. Kesha goes to a kid's room accidentally. The kid considers him an astronaut. Like he has come to his room magically, and Kesha doesn't want to listen to that kid. He asks the kid, "Do you know where is Elisa's room?" The kid points upside. Kesha moves upside and sees people who were composing music. Then he moves upside and there were 3 people and they were trying to talk to a soul through their magic. Kesha asks them, "Which floor is this?" A man gets faint being scared and he goes to Elisa's room. Then he goes to a bank and robs the money. Later, he gives the money to the apartment owner. His life has changed after getting this superpower. Meanwhile, a police officer is shown stopping Kesha's way. He pranks the police officer under the car. He also pranks his uncle. He fires at him and the reason was the wrong behavior of his uncle. The police is shown at Kesha's home and they discover he is the robber. The question is how the police discovered this, because Kesha has left a note there. He has written, "I am taking the money," and he has written the address. Now he gets stuck and has no way to escape. Now Kesha has the superpowers so he can run from there easily. Meanwhile, the female owner of the apartment also arrives there. Kesha's friend says, "This apartment isn't suitable for living because I am feeling the smell of gas." The female owner says, "No, this is absolutely fine and it will work for years." Later, she turns on the gas and there was a huge blast because of it. The blast was so huge that everyone can die, but Kesha was there and he saves everyone while using his superpowers. Kesha and his friend shift to a huge apartment. The bank in charge who can die in the blast, but Kesha has saved him. Now he saves Kesha from the punishment for robbery. His robbed money was given to an insurance company and now his troubles were over. He goes to Elisa and discovers she was talking to her friend. She was telling him what kind of life partner she want. "My wish is to get the ideal car," and Kesha understands how he has to behave. Elisa will start liking him while being impressed by him. The man has given powers to Kesha so he can do good tasks while using the powers to help the people, but he was using the powers to make Elisa happy. Kesha goes to a shop and purchases the car that Elisa likes. He buys flowers for Elisa. Then he was waiting for Elisa and when she arrives he confesses that how much he likes her, but Elisa was getting late so she ignores him. She sits in his car to go to her office. She reaches the office but because of being late her boss couldn't accept her report. He scolds her because he wanted her to wrote breaking news. Butch has written a report of the kids who are cancer patients. Kesha was seeing all this, but then her boss sees Kesha. That he was in between the leaders, so he bent down on his knees being scared or respected. Elisa was given the task to take interviews while going into the summit. Elisa asks Kesha while giving him money to take me to the place where I have to take interviews. Reaching there, Elisa goes inside the summit through the press pass. Kesha also wants to go inside, but he doesn't have the pass. They caught him, but he has superpowers, so he easily goes inside, being disappeared. Elisa's day passes well there and she gets a chance to take a huge interview. Elisa becomes happy because of it, and Kesha also expresses his feeling while getting a chance. Elisa breaks his heart while saying, "I wasn't impressed by you ever." Elisa's boss gets impressed by Kesha while seeing his magic, and being impressed he promotes Elisa. Elisa was so excited, but even after so many tries, Elisa doesn't like him. Kesha doesn't understand what should he do. Then he is shown talking to a sick kid. He was telling him his mother will take him to space. Kesha ignores the kid and goes to Elisa's room again. Elisa was sleeping and he awakes her. Elisa was feeling she is dreaming, that's why he lifts her and takes her to the other side of the wall. They jump on a train. Later, they go to a carriage and Kesha makes Elisa enjoys it a lot. Elisa doesn't know this isn't a dream but a reality. He fights with the boy whom Elisa likes, but he was beaten. This kind of love isn't good, means if you like someone you wanted to keep her with you forcefully and didn't understand what that human wants for his own life. Later, Kesha is shown standing on a huge building. To impress Elisa for winning her heart, he wants to tell her he doesn't want this life if she isn't in his life. He was compelling her to get her love forcefully. Kesha is shown falling from the building, but because of having superpowers, he escapes. Elisa doesn't know this, so she gets faint while thinking maybe Kesha is dead. Elisa was taken to the hospital and Kesha also goes to the hospital, just to see if there is any injury because of falling. He finds the small boy with whom he has met before. This boy tells Kesha about a girl. She is a cancer patient and needs a lot of money for her treatment. Kesha realizes he had superpowers and could use them for good tasks. He just used them for making Elisa happy. There are many other tasks except for making Elisa happy. There are many people who need him and he could help them. Later, Kesha gives his money to the kids who were cancer patients for their treatment. Elisa also discovers from the kid how Kesha has given his money to the kids, so the kids will have their treatment. This thing makes a place in Elisa's heart. Elisa was also rich and has a kind heart. She wants a kind-hearted person in her life like her. Elisa runs to Kesha to tell him her feelings, that now she likes him. Kesha is shown again, who returns his superpowers to the man, because now he has got the thing he wanted from the beginning. The man was waiting for the next person. A person who will give him a loan and he will give him his superpowers. With it, the movie ends. We notice two boys who stop in front of a house and start talking. One boy informs another that a family used to live here but has since disappeared. When the other boy inquired about how, he explained that a spirit used to live here, that has cursed a family, and they have no idea where it has gone afterward. According to the boy, there is a woman who lives there and has a daughter who died. When his daughter died, her mother was blamed for her death and the girl's mother has taken her own life. The other boy says, "No, I have heard another story." He claims there was a monster who lived here and murdered the entire family. That is to say, this house has a number of well-known stories associated with it. However, no one knows the actual story behind it. One of the boys begins to enter the house, but the other boy stops him. But he invites the other boy inside and tells him not to be afraid. Meanwhile, they start to open the house door and notice a man in the window. They both escape the scene in a frightful manner. Later on, we see a man who claims that every house has a story to tell. I believe there has been a story hidden behind this house that is calling to me. I may be able to reveal their secret. The man and his daughter were in the car. He arrives at the same house where the two boys were standing. He was a writer who writes horror stories. Someone told him that ghosts live in this house, so he brings his daughter. He wants to do something adventurous because he believes to be writing a separate story. When he gets here, this man walks into the house, which was scary and deserted. Meanwhile, he notices a locked room door. On the phone, he was telling someone about this house. He also mentions that this is most likely a basement with a locked door. He climbs to the second floor, where he notices a girl's photo. Meanwhile, we notice something suspicious behind us, almost like a ghost. We saw this man's daughter sitting in the car. She becomes afraid when her father gets into the car to take her. Because this man's daughter is unable to walk, Dad takes her inside the house. Both of them were watching TV in the next scene. The man's daughter inquires as to why we have come this home. He informs his daughter that as time has passed, he has become less creative, because I've had a lot of problems throughout my life. So I'd like to regain my creativity so that I may start writing horror stories. I don't want to live in this place, her daughter says. Her dad claims that it will only be for a few days later we leave. He promises to take you to the lake when we return. His daughter feels happy and agrees to stay here. On the same night, the man notices a light in a room that he hasn't turned. This man is terrified when the door to this room opens and closes. When he enters the room, he notices a lady, who is his wife, although she is no longer alive. He inquires as to her purpose for being here, and she responds that she is aware of his purpose. She claims that there's no need to be worried because you'll get exactly here what you desire. He tells her not to leave him this time because he knows she isn't real. He starts crying, and the lady disappears. The next day, we see this man in this place, writing a horror story. He portrays a woman who was going somewhere with her daughter. On the other hand, we see another woman who really was going with her daughter. He writes in a story a woman was going with her daughter. She sees her daughter wasn't with her. In reality, what he writes in the story happens with that lady. This lady has a daughter who suddenly disappears. While she is trying to find her, another killer appears, wearing a mask. He has the head of a woman who was hiding from him. She escapes him and runs to a house. She is watching a woman on TV who is trying to flee the killer. The same killer ends her life after coming from behind. The same thing happened to the lady. The masked man follows her, and he starts to kill her. We see the man who was writing this story on the other side. Now, because he doesn't like these characters, he cuts the story. He claims that this isn't a good story, but he has no idea that whatever fiction he's writing is actually happening to someone. His daughter inquires if you will accompany her on the trip. He says no since I'm too tired and haven't slept the entire night, and I have a lot of work to do. She says that if my mother had been alive at the time, she would have taken me. He claims she is no longer alive and isn't with us. He was also washing the pots and ragging on his daughter. Meanwhile, he notices blood everywhere in the palace where he was washing the pots. He becomes terrified when he sees there was nothing again. It indicates that there was no blood, and he became shocked. We see him sitting down to write a new horror story in the next scene. Now he imagines a girl on a farm being pursued by a serial killer, and the girl comes to a road. A car passes her by as she runs. She asks for the help from the car, but the man who was driving the car, he doesn't stop and drives his car into her, severely injuring her. It was actually happening to a different girl. While writing it, he doesn't like it again. He tears the paper and goes from there. Then she turns to her daughter and asks her for an outing. You've been stuck inside all day. Let's go out and have some fun. When he brings her daughter outside, he notices an injured girl who has an accident. This was the same girl whom he has imagined in the story. Everything he wrote in the story happened to her in real life. Now he doesn't help her and returns home. When he gets home, he rewrites the story and imagined an evil character. It was a Joker, and he imagined a girl whom Joker was following. This girl was running from the Joker, hiding in a basement. There was also an injured man on the scene. Meanwhile, Joker arrives and inquires of the injured man, who has done this with you, and he inquires about the girl whom he was following. Meanwhile, the girl sees the Joker and gets frightened of him. That girl asks the Joker if he would take down her. Later, we see the man who writes the story again, and he doesn't like it. He tears the page and declares that I can't write a story. I'm no longer creative. He was quite ragged when he came at his daughter. His daughter has been calling him, but he doesn't listen. His daughter says that you don't care about me. He says, I don't care about you anymore since your mother died. I'm caring for you. I wash your clothes, cook for you, and carry you from one place to another. You're still saying that I don't care about you. He becomes enraged at his daughter. She begins to cry. He later apologizes to his daughter and she enters the bathroom. He enters another room and continues writing the story. Perhaps he has a new thought in his mind while he thinks a man walks down the stairs. He followed him, but there was no one around. In the meantime, he thinks about his daughter, that who could be harmed. He immediately goes to the bathroom. He noticed that the washroom door was open, but no one was inside. He looks for her daughter both inside and outside the house, but she was nowhere. While finding his daughter, he reaches a room. His same recording was playing, and he said, I've come here to reveal the hidden story. However, he couldn't find his daughter in this area. He sees the entire house except for the basement. Meanwhile, he starts crying and his wife comes to him. His wife has passed away, and this is the soul that has returned to him. He cries as he informs his wife that he, too, has lost his daughter. Now I have nothing in my life because you left me first, and my daughter left today. His wife tells him not to be worried that he will get what he wants. What you're looking for is right in front of you. Later, he notices the keys to the basement in front of him. He enters the basement by using the key to open the door. He comes into the same Joker he imagined in his story. Joker says you've finally arrived and that the spirit of your story has taken your daughter. He asks as to where she has taken him, but he doesn't reply and beats him up. He then flees. Joker was also cashing him out, so he jumps to escape. Now, we see that the stories he was writing he has been trapped in them himself. That is to say, the characters he wrote have come to kill him. Everything was going in the same way that happened with the girl. A masked man was also following him. He was hiding from and ran into a house. Everything was going on in the same way that the girl in the story was. When he arrives at the house, he immediately starts looking for his daughter. Meanwhile, he discovers his daughter's body in the bathtub. He pulls his daughter from the tub and begins to cry violently, because he no longer has somebody in his life who he can call his own. When he brings his daughter out, he sees the same lady he imagined in the story. She praises the girl for her beauty, and inquires whether you are the one who has done this to her. Yes, she says, I've done it, I've ended her life. When you're released, he becomes very ragged, and he kills her. After ending the lady, the same pig that we saw at the beginning of the film appears in front of him. He sees the lady whom he killed, and this time it is his wife. He has no idea whom he has killed. Later, either that lady or his wife's soul, he phones the police. He informs her that he has killed both of them. She asks whom you've killed. I've come here to find my daughter, he claims. Meanwhile, I learned that this woman had gunned down my daughter. I have killed that woman and then realized I'd killed my wife. He goes in a room and stands in front of a window. Meanwhile, we see two boys were watching that man. They're the same boys we first saw at the start of the movie. This man in the window has been seen by both of them. That means we've been watching the earlier story since they left. What had happened before and who was he standing in the window, and what had happened to him? Later, we watch this man take a gun from his drawer. He writes down his thoughts in a notebook. That every house has a hidden story. We feel some of the characters in the story are ghosts. Some stories have ended but some stories are still left. He writes that all these are still inside us. That is the name of this story. They live inside us. Later on, he takes his life and the movie ends here. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe our channel for more movies.